بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Hey, look, somebody tell me what we're talking about this episode. Because, look, I don't even know.
We're talking about the unrelenting wit and strength of a Muslim in the face of adversity.
Okay.
One of the most forgotten things in the creed of being a Muslim is the Qadr of Allah, good or bad, right? Believing in Qadr of Allah is one of the hardest things because we always like to think that we're in control of our own lives. And indeed, we are in control because we have the free will, right? But we never stop to think that Allah SWT already knew this for us. Allah SWT knew this was going to happen to us. He didn't make it happen to us, right? Whether it be good, whether it be bad. And it's really the bad things that we're talking about because that's where people start to question the Qadr of Allah. You don't question the Qadr of Allah if you get an A on your test or if you get a new car, if you get a new job, if you get a raise. If anything good happens to you, something that you've wanted, you're not going to question the Qadr of Allah. You're going to think you deserved it. Because we as humans, we're ungrateful. We think we deserve these things.
And we're hasty. And even like when you think about the Qadr of Allah, you think about Musa and Khidr. Remember when Khidr, he was doing these heinous acts in the eyes of Moses. Moses kept asking, he broke his promise. He kept asking him, why you do this? Why you did that? Why you did that? Why you did that? And Khidr, he told him, you stop asking me these questions. Like this is all a part of a bigger plan. And then you go on later to realize in the story that Khidr was doing acts which was revealed to him by Allah that were better and more revealing than what Moses saw. If you understand what I'm saying.
It's not necessarily better. It's the fact that everything had a purpose. Everything led up to something that allowed Musa alayhi salam to understand fully the scope of things. Because every event that happens, it's not just that small thing. It's everything. Just like our life, we're judged based on our entire life, not because we did one thing. If we commit one sin, that's not the only thing we're judged on the day of judgment. We're judged on our entire life, every single thing, not just the good or bad deeds, the things that may not even be deeds, the neutral things that we do in our life, just waking up from sleep. Did you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you did that to get some good deeds, or did you not? Did you do sunnahs or did you not do sunnahs? Did you deliberately leave out sunnahs or did you accidentally forget them? Like these types of things, we're judged on these things, right? The things that we don't know about. And in the case of Musa alayhi salam and Khidr, you have to go back to what was the reason he had to go meet Khidr. The people asked Musa alayhi salam, who is the most knowledgeable? Instead of saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Musa alayhi salam said himself. And when you look at this story from right now, you think who in the right mind would say I'm the most knowledgeable and not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But this was because Musa alayhi salam had to learn his lesson. There was a lesson to be learned in this.
But look, you're saying that right now, people be like, who would say that other than Allah? But when people are placed in situations, they tend to act very differently.
Exactly.
So right now you might be thinking, oh, if such and such happens to me, I'm going to react this way. But in reality, you really don't know. You don't know the future. You don't know what the future has in store for you. And only Allah knows that which you do not know.
I can actually speak on this on personal experience. Like there have been times where like I heard a story about a man who he was like a prisoner of war. And the only way they'd release him and not kill him is if he renounced Islam. If he said like he's no longer Muslim. And the dude unrelentingly, he just kept saying like, no, you can kill me. I'm going to be a martyr. And he kept saying the Shahada. So all this kept going on. He kept saying the Shahada. They tortured him and all this and that. And he would still pray. Like he never let anything turn him away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And me thinking I'm strong and stuff, I thought, okay, if I was in that situation, I'd be doing the same exact thing. But in reality, I don't actually know. Like, I don't know if in that situation, I would have been so fearful that I would have ended up renouncing Islam or not. Because in a situation like that, where you think, oh, I'd be doing the same thing that he's doing. I'd have the same strength of Iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might destroy you because you might have a little mustard seed of arrogance in your heart to think that you're going to do it yourself. That this strength that I'm showing right now, that, oh, if you kill me right now, I'm a martyr.
Like that type of strength comes from Allah. And like asking Allah for that type of strength. Like that comes from, like that is not something which you muster up yourself, or it's not like you're instantly there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's built up over a period of time. Like I can recall the numerous amount of times people have complimented me on my discipline as a Muslim. And I've said like, bro, it's not from me. You know what I'm saying? Like this is through years of practice. Like me being a Muslim, it's not just practicing my prayers. That's not what it means to be a practicing Muslim. It means to build myself up. Like the person that you see before you here today it's not me on my own. This is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is from Allah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me. He's the reason I am this way because I follow his rules. Like, yeah, I choose to be this way. But we always got to remember, just the fact that we choose to be this way is not from ourselves. This is only from Allah because Allah gives you these abilities. Allah gives you these opportunities. And a lot of the times when I think about it, it's like
I think a good way to think about it is every single day you are tested and granted an opportunity to either choose right from wrong. And then through that, Allah may have mercy upon you from what you choose. Or through that, Allah may have mercy upon you from what you struggle for. You know what I'm saying? On the day of judgment, Allah's going to ask, like, you're going to be asked about what you struggled for, what you strived for in this life.
You're told to do your best. You're not told to be the best out here.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
And if you want to talk about like historically, the first person I could bring up is look at Umar ibn al-Khattab, right? A man who, like we said it numerous times, where he was an enemy to Islam, a man who wanted to kill the Prophet ﷺ, right?
Mhm.
And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for him to become Muslim. He did, and look how honored he became.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying this is purely from him or purely from the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's from Allah.
Mm-hmm.
He made dua for the sake of Allah so that this man could accept Islam. He accepts Islam and he becomes a man so honored that we know him as the second.
Allah directly tells the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran that guidance indeed doesn't come from you. It comes from Allah. So you attribute that to Allah. And like when it comes to the worst of the worst, you have to still believe in your heart that that person can be guided if Allah wills.
100%. Because within a day, within a night, his entire life, everything that he did previously can be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's like, you can see the change within this person. Like he's praying their prayers, being nice and kind to people, being foremost in good acts. I feel like Allah tells us the best way, like you said, to be a Muslim, to build yourself up. The best way to be to build yourself up is Allah tells you to be foremost in good acts. Leave off the major sins. Seek repentance from Allah for your sins and for your shortcomings.
But look, even the people that you wouldn't even expect to be guided, Allah guides them. And what do you see as a turnout of that? That person becomes better. And what do you see on the other side? People are unhappy with it. People are questioning Allah's qadr. Like, look, for example, how many people when Andrew Tate, may Allah bless him, whenever he became a Muslim, how many people said they were going to leave Islam? Or how many people started talking crap about him, saying how bad of a person he is, or he doesn't deserve to be a Muslim, or he's just doing it for yada, 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 as if they know this man's heart, as if they know his intentions, as if they know what actually goes on in this man's head. Even now to this day, people will still say that. And look what he's doing. He's actively speaking for Islam. And he's holding on to his faith. Remember when he was in jail and he was talking about his experience in jail and he was going to the courthouse. What was he doing? He was holding the Quran. He was talking about all the times in jail when he was reading the Quran. And even when he's out here right now, how he's speaking up for Palestine. A lot of these Muslims, they've been Muslim for years. They've been born Muslim. They don't do that. And yet these are the same people who will sit there and question Allah's qadr and be like, oh, this guy didn't deserve yada, 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 as if they know the unseen, as if they know what's better.
Those same people judge like they know the unseen. And
here's the crazy part about it. If Allah willed, those same people can become disbelievers. Those same people will end up in the hellfire. Is that not something scary to think about? Today I could be such a way, and the next day I could be amongst the people of the hellfire.
Because of your arrogance and your actions.
This one thing I decided to do, and Allah might decide to punish me for. And what is indeed a true punishment? Allah furthering himself away from you. Or Allah putting you upon misguidance.
Yeah.
I could even speak on that, like in my personal life. Like there's been times where like my iman has felt good and I felt like I was in a good position in my life, but there's maybe some things that I do in my like in a certain week where I might feel like there's some arrogance in my heart just because I might feel like I did this thing on my own, right? And as someone who's young and as someone who's like coming up in their life and maturing and stuff, it's so easy to leave off the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the reason why you did this, right? It's so easy to think that you've done something on your own. Like if I think about any achievement that I get, sometimes it might in my head immediately it might be like, oh, I did this, like I'm happy I did this, but I might not thank Allah right away.
This is something that is actually 100% so true, because I can even say the same for myself, where it's like one day I feel like I'm like, man, I'm such a, I'm doing good on my deen, alhamdulillah, right? And then I go out, I do something, something that I achieve, and I'm like, And later on, I'm just like, why didn't I think of Allah? Why didn't I thank Allah first? Why did I think about how I just did something instead of attributing it to Allah? Why was that not the first thing that I thought of? And that's scary to me because I'm like, what happens if, like, let's say I get put into a situation, I'm about to die, and Allah's not the first thing that I'm thinking about.
Or even so, what happens if you get put in a situation where you achieve many more victories and you start to forget Allah over time?
Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. You see it happen all over. And you could be amongst those people. So don't think just because someone else is doing it, you're going to look down upon them and talk about them when you can be that same very person. That can happen to you later on because you don't know your future.
I want to touch up on something. Yeah, you don't know your future. I want to touch up on something like you said earlier, how we don't necessarily control what happens to us. In turn, like what that means is that we can't necessarily control our reality in that sense. But in the way we can control our reality is we can control how we react.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever something hard befalls us, we could think of God. Whenever something good befalls us, we can think of God. Like, and in that, like, that's the same thing. I just did the same thing. I stayed the same. I didn't decrease I didn't decrease in any way. You can control your reality by the way you react.
It's your reaction. It's your perspective. The way you look at life is going to determine how your life is. If I'm sitting there and I have a bad perspective on everything, I'm going to be miserable. But if I sit there and I have good thoughts about anything, whether it be a bad thing, and I was even thinking about this earlier, when people are the best at something, it comes from a past of making a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad things happening upon them. When do you learn the most? You learn the most whenever you're put through something, whenever you go through something, whenever something bad happens to you, because then you're really sitting there sincerely thinking about how did you end up in such a situation? How to avoid this later on? How can I do better?
Sincerely thinking, those sleepless nights. When you hit rock bottom, the only place to go is up. And when some people, they only focus on the bottom part. They only focus on the bottom part, not the unlimited potential that they have. They don't focus on the bigger bubble surrounding them on their circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like how you just said that because a lot of people focus only on their lows. They never focus on their highs. They never focus on where they could be, where this situation right now could take them in the future. Like this could propel you. Essentially, a hardship is supposed to propel you in the future, right? Anything that you go through, it's supposed to help you better, like later on in life. Like when you think about another Sahabi, like I told you guys right before this, Sumayya radiallahu anha, the first martyr in Islam, she was enslaved. And she was a poorer person before, and she converted to Islam. And this angered the people of Quraysh, Abu Jahl and stuff like this. And they tortured her. They did a lot of things to persecute her because they could. Like she couldn't do anything to defend herself. Up until the day that Abu Jahl took a spear and speared her multiple times, right? So think about the unwavering iman of a person like this, someone who they know they can't do anything when they're in the face of adversity. Adversity such as this, where the end result is death. But they never waver because they know that this hardship leads to something better. The Prophet ﷺ told her before she even died, you are the people of paradise. Mm-hmm. And think about that type of strength. Now, see, I'm not saying that if you're going through something, you think of yourself as the people of paradise, but think where it can lead. Think about where the hardship could lead. If you endure this hardship and you endure the next one and you endure the next one, you are the people of paradise.
And think about it. What's something that's inevitable for every single person? Death. Death is inevitable for you and the person next to you. And death is the destroyer of desires and the destroyer of hardships. After death, there's no more hardship for you on this earth. And it's the end of your test.
And why make it worse for yourself? If you're already going through a lot of things, you hit rock bottom, why make it worse for yourself and make yourself amongst the people of the hellfire? Why not try to go for that next level? Why not try to achieve greatness? Why not try to be amongst the people of paradise? Why do you want to sit there and just be a bum?
Imagine hearing of a place imagine hearing of Jannah. Like you hear the rivers, the women, the company, the angels. You hear of this, you get to be with Allah, like the pleasure. So long as you remain, and there's no more tests, there's no more hardships coming upon you. And now you're sitting here living in this world, and you hear that, and you're like, why not just work for that? So things happen to this world which is so unappealing to me. I can't wait for Jannah. Like I can't wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys think about it, like why arrogance is so hated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like you think about the people of the past, right? People like Fir'aun, Nimrud, like people who claim to be things that they weren't, claim that their victories, their wealth, everything that they had, Qarun, like those types of people, they claim these things were from themselves and not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And me as someone, like they didn't even claim to be me, but it angers me because I'm like, how could you do that? They're claiming that whatever they got was from themselves. And these are huge things because we're told about it in the Quran, right? And to me, it's like, how could you do that, bro? Like, what has to be wrong in your head? And even for me, I feel ashamed when I have like a mustard seed of arrogance. I think just the smallest thing is from myself. Oh, I woke up, maybe it's sometimes, and I don't thank Allah right away. I feel shameful for that. Because I'm not the one who woke myself up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala woke me up. I woke up because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me permission. I took this breath just now because Allah gave me permission. It wasn't from me. Had it been from me, why do we have a brain where we don't even have to think about the next thing that we say?
Your brain knows more about your body than you do. Think about it. Your brain knows about certain locations in your body where things need to go. You don't even know.
Exactly.
Your brain don't tell you.
You take steps without even having to think about it. We get all this and we think it's from ourselves. We think that we deserve these gifts, right? And as you said once, an ayah that goes in my head every single day is you said, and on that day, we will ask them about their blessings. Well, I was like, how can I answer to something like that? Like the ability to have all these gifts in my life, and I'm sitting here crying because I got a C on my test or something. Mm-hmm. Like, and I still remember those days where I used to be upset when I got bad grades on my test. But then once, like, I started thinking to myself, this is from Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to do well on a test, obviously I can't say it and be like,
you do your best.
Yeah, exactly.
You do your
if
best.
Allah wants me to do well, I'm going to do well and not study. You can't do that. But let's say I study and I don't do that well. Then I'll be like, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't see this best for me. Maybe I'll do something better will happen later on.
Exactly. You do your best. There are some things that you can't control. So let's say a hardship befalls upon you. You control exactly how you react. There's no reason to sit there and be upset or to be mad over things that you can't even control. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Whether it still happened, you can't go back and change it.
Like one thing I try my best not to be angry at is this doesn't happen very often, but if I ever forget to set my alarm for Fajr and I don't wake up for Fajr, mm-hmm. I try not to be upset with myself, but I will feel a little shameful. But that's Iman right there. Yep. I know that's Iman because I'm like, man, how did I mess up? Like, what did I do? How did I forget? I never forget. Yep. Like, what the heck?
But you will forget.
And sometimes I'll be thinking, okay, if I forget, I'll probably wake up anyway. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's happened before where I've forgotten and I woke up anyway for Fajr. But like, there have been times where I haven't. And I'm like, man, now I have to pray Fajr and it's daylight out and like stuff like that. So, but that's not so much on you. Now, see, if I deliberately were to forget and just be like, oh, I'm probably going to wake up and I don't, that's on me. I can't be mad at anyone but myself.
Yep.
But see, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lift your burdens when it's not your fault, when it's just something that like this was Qadr Allah, and you have Iman, then it won't affect you as much. And you'll see that. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, if you get that little bit of shame or something or that little bit of guilt, that's Iman. And you could be rewarded for that. If you don't feel it at all, now you got a little bit of a problem. I'm not gonna lie to you. You got a little bit of a problem. I want to know, like, has that happened to y'all?
Dude, how many times, like, I know I went through this little phase where I just like, I set an alarm for Fajr and I just couldn't wake up. I'm just like, dude, like that's when I actually started reflecting into my life. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, is Allah angry with me? Like, is this why he's not letting me wake up for Fajr? But I think these things are out of my control, right? I had the intention. I set my alarms. I did my due diligence. Oh my God. And I couldn't wake up.
The feeling that you're describing, it happens to me a lot when I forget what rak'ah I'm on when I'm praying, and then I end the prayer and I'm like, man, I wish I fulfilled I wish I focused more.
Yeah, I wish I would have done better.
Yeah, I wish I would have done better. Yeah, because honestly, whenever I go into the prayer, I come with the mindset, man, like everything else gone. This is like I need to better myself right now. This is my time right now with Allah, and I try to focus. And when I don't get that, it makes like the rest of my day until the next prayer. It makes it worse.
And it shouldn't do that. That's from the Shaytan. Shaytan will sit there and try to make things seem worse than they are.
Wallahi, that is from Shaytan, because that's happened to me, and I'll just be sitting there even after making my dhikr and stuff, and I'll be sitting there like, bro, how did you forget what rak'ah you're on? Like, how are you not focused in salah? What was going on with you that you couldn't give just this time right now to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But then I'll be thinking like, this is from Shaytan, you know what I'm saying? Like this stuff happens, right? We are humans.
Because what's the goal of the Shaytan in that instance? To put you down, to sit there and think low of yourself because you're like, man, I already messed up here, so I might as well not pray the next prayer, or I might as well, it's things like that. But if it was really good, you would sit there, you learn from it, and you just do your best on the next one. Mm-hmm. And now going back to arrogant people, you ever sit there and you try to talk to someone who has that arrogance in him? You can't even have a conversation with this guy. This guy got too much dip on his chip. This guy got a chip on his shoulder. You try to
Yeah,
sit
wallahi.
there, you try to sit there and you try to have a normal conversation with them. He thinks he's on top of the world. He thinks he owns everything. Bro, these same people, I swear to God, they piss me off so much. Like I don't even know what to say to these people.
Bro, like I know this like the back of my hand because I play sports. I still play sports, so I know these people. The most arrogant people you'll find are in the sports.
No, exactly. Look, and look. Speaking of sports, I look, for example, I'm gonna look when I go to car meets and I talk to people about their cars and stuff like that. Like I have people that are very humble. Then I have other people where they just think they're on top of the world. They think they drive the fastest car. They think they drive the nicest car. I'm like, dude, don't you know that there's people with better cars out there? Don't you know that you will lose? Don't you know that there's other people that will win?
Don't you know how fast this could be taken away from you?
Exactly. Don't you know how? Yeah, exactly. One little mistake, you're done.
Like that's what I used. Like me being an athlete, and whenever I got injured, I used to think, was I being arrogant or something? Did I think that I was good because it was me, right? And maybe I did. Maybe I did. You know what I'm saying? Like these are things that you can't really reflect on it too much because it's something in your heart, and it's not like it's a memory. You can't just think back to a time and I'm like, oh, I'm the best in the world. Like nobody's better than me. This and that. Like no, there was a time where I had confidence in myself, but I knew I was thinking a lot. But then there may have been times where I was playing. And it's hard to remember a lot. So I think it's from me.
Mm-hmm.
You know
and I can admit that.
The train of thought that that helps me destroy it anytime I feel arrogant is I always think back to Adam alayhi salam. Who was Adam? Adam was the first human. He was the representative for humankind. And he was created by Allah. The angels, they prostrated to him and they honored him. Now Adam alayhi salam, he was honored. He was in a high place and he was told not to do one thing. And he went and he did it because he was aroused by the Shaytan. And then he was reduced, like he got thrown out of his high place, and now he's in a low place. He was in a place incomparable to that high place. Mm-hmm. Look at like snap of a finger. Look how fast that happened. That's our representative. I know I'm mirroring that.
No, that's a very good point right there. Look how fast Adam alayhi salam, like he had everything going for himself, and Allah only told him to stay away from one thing, and yet he couldn't stay away from it.
That makes me think.
He was reduced down to the lowest.
That makes me think like if I was only human on earth, and I had one job, and it was to not do something, I feel like I would do it. So how could I think higher of myself? Like
you know, this reminds me of like, look, for the people here that have siblings, you ever tell your sibling not to do something, they go ahead and do it. They just want to go ahead and just do the opposite of whatever you have to say, even though you know better than them, even though like you have more experience than them. That's just me. That's just coming from personal experience.
Yeah, like to think Adam alayhi salam, he was told not to do one thing, and because of the whispers of Shaytan, he went ahead and did it. How can we think we're any better than that? How can we think that if Shaytan ever comes to us and we fall into something that we're like that's not gonna happen to us? You can't ever think that you're gonna be free of these things.
But this type of thinking is not always used for the bad, because it's like when people try to talk bad about Muslims, then they go ahead and now they're like, now I need to go research Islam. They go ahead and they do their learning. Now they all of a sudden become Muslim, right? I did the same thing, right? When it comes to other things, people talk so badly about something, but then in my human nature, I want to go ahead and go learn about that thing, and it ends up being beneficial.
The curiosity of humans.
And that's the thing. That's why we go through things. We got to go ahead and experience. We go ahead and get that experience, and then you figure out what's actually good, what's actually bad. You go ahead and learn.
No, and also another thing that would destroy a person, destroy arrogance, is Qadr Allah. Sometimes you might be getting victory after victory, but it's in a short time span. You don't even realize. You think you're living forever. Time is moving so slow for you. You're enjoying the moment, and then one day you're old and you're shriveled up. And you've lost all your knowledge, you've lost all your strength, all your might. Maybe you were tall, now you shrunk, and now look at you. Like that. If you haven't seen like the state of an old person, or even like when you were a baby and you were suckled, and now you want to be arrogant, like you don't think about these things.
No, exactly. Like, look, me personally, I used to know like a lot of people. I'd be like, man, this person's really, really cocky, right? Now I'll see them get into a car accident. They'll be like, man, just make sure that you're always thankful for whatever happens. You know, I'm thankful, God, let me live, yada, yada, yada. Or like, for example, they'll lose a person in life. They'll be like, man, make sure you guys go ahead and spend time with your family. Tell your people you love them. Thank them for everything. Make sure you thank God for life.
Or and
then look, they go through that. And then after a while, they'll just go back to what they were doing before.
Or I even heard it. Oh, wait.
Allah says that in the Quran.
Yeah, there is a verse in the Quran that talks about that. But I heard a quote. It went something like, if sin had not been prescribed upon mankind, we would have destroyed ourselves with arrogance.
Mm-hmm. But look, even going back to arrogance, You go to the gym, all right? So you would know this. Like, look, you walk in the gym, you got these people walking with their chest down. I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? There's no need for you to be doing all this because, like, look, a lot of those people, I can't lie, bro. Like, their arrogance, from what it seems like, is just inhumane.
Yeah,
inhumane. I'm like, dude.
There's a lot of people who walk proudly around these areas, especially when they've been blessed.
But for what? For
those,
what though? For what? I'm just sitting there like, dude, me and you, let's say me and you, we have the same results. Why are you acting in such a way? What makes you any better?
This is what I remember. Like what you're bringing up, this brings up memories from football. I remember there used to be times where, like, I'd have teammates who were smaller than me, and they'd see the opponents. They'd be way bigger, and they'd be scared because, like, oh, these people are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, this and that. And I'd be like, bro, they're a man just like you. They get dressed the same way as you. There's nothing that they do that you can't do. Mm-hmm. They eat, they sleep, they drink. Mm-hmm. So what? Just because they're bigger than me, what does that mean? Does that mean that they have more good deeds than me? Does that mean that they're a better person than me?
Does that mean they have a higher chance of going to Jannah? Like this,
just because whoever wins on this field, it doesn't really matter in hindsight. It doesn't really matter. But whatever happens, I know that I've won because I know where I stand in my life. Like
it's the battle between yourself. You know, on that field, you got to try your 100% your best, or in any endeavor when you're taking a test, you're studying, you got to try 100% your best. Even though this may not mean Jannah or Jahannam for you, but this is something between you and Allah. You may dua for it, and you can make it like as an act of worship. You do this for the sake of Allah.
And even if you don't succeed the way that you want to, you know that you did your best. You know that there's things that you will work on. The same way that in our iman, like in our deen, if we fall short, we know that there's something we're going to work on because we did our best, but we still fell short.
You want to talk about iman? Look at Ibrahim alayhi salam and look at how he dealt with like the Qadr of Allah. When Ibrahim alayhi salam, he smacked the idols up and he was conversing. He was telling, it was him versus, he was a 1v20 or 1v his entire community. He was taking on his entire community, including his father, on not to worship idols and to worship Allah and Allah alone. They threw him in a fire. They said, build for him a furnace and throw him in the fire. They threw him in the fire. Allah made the fire cool and peaceful for him. Even after that, like, you imagine you got thrown in the fire by the people, you would be shaken up. You would like, I don't know if I believe this anymore or something like that. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, وَقَالَ إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. I will go to where my Lord has guided me. I will go to where my Lord tells me to, and he will guide me. He will guide me. This is the iman he had. This was the tawakkul in Allah he had. And then after that, he said, oh my Lord, give me from a righteous offspring. And then after that, Allah answered him right away. Look at when you have strength and you stay firm in your religion, look at how Allah will answer your dua. Not only him, look at Noah. Look how Allah answered his dua. Not only him, look at Moses. Look how Allah answered his dua against Pharaoh, and he stayed strong and firm in his religion.
Don't forget one of the most important aspects of that story of Ibrahim alayhi salam getting thrown in the fire. Who came to him before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped him?
An angel.
The angels came to him. They said, can we help? He said, no, I don't want anything from you. If it's not from Allah, I don't want it. That's the trust in Allah, in the plan of Allah that he had.
Look at the trust in God. Like, that's the level of iman. You think you can see it, oh, now I can copy this. No, you got to have that like in your heart. You got to live by it every single day. When you wake up, you think of Allah. Before you go to sleep, you think of Allah. In your prayers, you're 100% focused. And if you mess up even the slightest, you're stuck for Allah immediately. Like,
when you're go ahead. When you're sitting there with your non-Muslim peers or friends, you're not going to sit there and be afraid to go ahead and practice your religion.
Mm-hmm. When you pass by falsehood, you pass by it with dignity. You walk on the earth, you walk on it humbly. When people come to you with falsehood and people come to you with foolishness, you walk past it. You walk past it and you say,
you're just, even if it goes against yourself.
Yes. You know, I heard at the khutbah recently during Jummah, an imam said that look at all these other religions and all the other nations. What do they fight for? They fight for money, land, power, this, that, and the third. What does Islam fight for? What did Islam fight for? Justice. Mm-hmm. Amongst within yourself, when you do jihad and nafs, when you're struggling against yourself, what are you fighting for? Justice.
And people pretend like Islam was spread by the sword, right? But they came in saying, hey, can we practice our religion here? Can we preach Islam here? If you say no, then we're gonna
but like understand,
it's over.
like understand that Islam really fought for justice. We didn't fight for money. We didn't fight for land. The Rasul alayhi salatu, he never fought for any of these things. He fought for justice. People
the Prophet alayhi salatu say, he said, if you give me the sun in my right hand and the moon in the left hand, he wouldn't stop what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not here for materialistic gains.
That's the integrity of a Muslim. I'm here for what's right.
The same way that the Prophet ﷺ said that when what is it, the mountain of golds are revealed in the end times, he told the Muslims not to go for it. The real Muslims, they're not going to go for that. Even though you become virtually the richest person in your land or whatever, you don't go for it because that's the integrity of a Muslim. We're not here for that. We know this is going to happen. We know that there's materialistic gain wherever we go, but we're not here for that. We're not here to keep what the dunya offers us.
Dude, even if you get that rich, what's going to happen? We're going to still want to be richer. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, if a man is given a mountain of gold, he's going to want another one.
Ask for another one. Look, honestly, even within my own self, if I were to put a religion aside and grind and get 100 billion, I would not be that. Like that wouldn't satisfy me. That's such a menial goal. There's other people in history who had 100 billion. That's not what I want. I don't care about that. Look. What I care about the solidarity. I care about the trust in God, that I know that the one who created me. Why would I not worship him? That's in Surah Yasin.
Personal experience. I know a non-Muslim, right? They didn't have too much money. They ended up having a lot of money. And he's like, bro, I literally bought everything that I want. I have enough money to get other things that I might want in the future. Now what? Like, now I'm starting to realize that there's a lot more to life than just to grind for money and get women. And that was coming from a non-Muslim based on personal experience. And that really just opened my eyes. I'm like, wow, every single human being is really born upon the fitrah. And later, whether or not later on, they will realize it. They will realize that, what Islam has to say is true, whether they realize it now or later. And that's what I mean. Even the worst of the worst can become guided. These people, they can realize. Yeah. They can wake up in the split of a second, if Allah wills.
As a Muslim, you have to know that as this life is just a place for us to travel in, we want to take exactly what it is that we want to receive. The things that we want are the good deeds, the things we can't see. So that's why we don't take anything. We're not here for the materialism. You can't see your good deeds. You can't really see your intention. So you don't want to take any of that. You don't want to take any of the materialistic things to the hereafter because it's not going to be there with you. The things that are going to be there with you that are going to come to fruition are your good deeds, your intentions. The things that Allah SWT will judge you based on. He's not going to judge you based on the house that you had because not everybody's going to have a house. Not everybody has wealth.
You want to know the way I interpret death? It's not like how other people interpret death. I interpret death as the moment you stop trying to get better every single day as a human being. You think you're dead when your body is lifeless? No, that's just the portal to the next life. That's just your entry into the hereafter. You're dead the moment you stop changing. Think about it. What is evolution? Evolution is change to get better. Every single day you have to keep on getting after it. What is the reason that you're on this world? What is the reason you're in this world?
To worship Allah.
To worship Allah. In Islam, why does Allah tell us to do good things? It's for ourselves. It's not for the benefit of Him. So when you are foremost in good acts, you're bettering yourself. You put yourself in a high status, and now you're among the pious. And when you die, then you enter into Jannah. And Jannah is for the pious. Those who repented, those who had the strength to turn back to Allah.
SubhanAllah.
That's like when you're dead, you got to think about it. Even in scientific terms, even the science man knows this. You're in a homeostatic state. You're homeostasis. What does that mean? You're staying the same, which means life is the opposite of that. You're always changing. You could change this way, you change that way, but you got to choose which way you want to change. That's the free will. I'm telling you, even the science man knows this. It's in the books. I read it.
Oh, about it, man. I love that. And I think that's the best way to end it off, man. SubhanAllah. Dang, man, we touched up on a lot of things. I mean, first and foremost, it was a lot about arrogance because that's one of the things that you could be suffering from that you don't really know about because it's so small. Arrogance can be so small, but it can build up. Just like sin is a domino effect, arrogance can be something
like you don't even realize.
Blindness is led by blindness.
Exactly. Right. And, with that being said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We hope you guys enjoyed this podcast and we hope you guys leave us some suggestions, bi'idhnillah. And yeah.
Jazakallah khair to all of you who made it to the end. Like he said, we hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Make sure to share with your friends and family. You never know whose life you can change by sharing this video. And also, join our Discord. Link is in the bio. We're building the biggest Discord server in the Ummah, and we need your guys' help. And also, we're not scholars. We're still students of knowledge, so we're open to correction. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.